Vincent Romano sat in the back of his black Mercedes, staring out the tinted window as the city lights blurred past. His driver knew better than to make small talk. Vincent wasn't the kind of man people chatted with casually. He was the kind of man people feared, respected, and avoided eye contact with. For 20 years he'd built an empire in the shadows of the city, controlling operations that most people pretended didn't exist. But tonight, Vincent wasn't thinking about business. He was thinking about the one person in the world who made him feel completely powerless. His 8-year-old daughter, Isabella. "Take the next left," Vincent said quietly. "We're going to Marcello's on 5th Street. The driver nodded and changed lanes. Vincent loosened his tie and took a deep breath. He'd faced down rival crime families, federal investigators, and men twice his size without breaking a sweat. But the thought of spending 2 hours alone with his daughter at dinner made his stomach tight with anxiety. It hadn't always been this way. When Isabella was younger, she used to run to him when he came home, her little arms stretched wide, her face bright with joy. But that was before her mother died, before the world became darker and colder for both of them. 3 years had passed since the car accident that took his wife, Lucia. 3 years of watching his daughter slowly disappear into herself. Isabella barely spoke anymore. She didn't laugh. She didn't play. She just existed in their big empty house like a ghost, clutching that worn stuffed rabbit she'd had since she was 3. Vincent's mother had cornered him last week after Sunday dinner. "That child needs her father," she'd said, gripping his arm with surprising strength for a woman in her 70s. "Not your money. Not your protection. You. When's the last time you took her somewhere? Just the 2 of you?" He'd opened his mouth to defend himself, but nothing came out. He couldn't remember. There were always meetings, always problems to solve, always threats to manage. His world didn't stop just because his heart was broken. Take her to dinner, his mother had insisted, somewhere nice. Talk to her, listen to her, be her papa, not just the man who pays the bills. So here he was, dressed in his best suit, heading to one of the finest Italian restaurants in the city, about to attempt something that felt more dangerous than any business deal. He was going to try to connect with his own daughter. The car pulled up in front of Marcello's. The valet rushed to open the door, recognizing Vincent immediately. Everyone in this neighborhood knew who he was, even if they pretended not to. Vincent stepped out and straightened his jacket, then opened the back door where Isabella sat. She looked so small in the big leather seat, wearing the navy blue dress his mother had picked out for her. Her dark hair was pulled back with a ribbon, and she held her stuffed rabbit against her chest like a shield. When she looked up at him, Vincent saw Lucia's eyes staring back. It hurt every single time. "Ready?" he asked, holding out his hand. Isabella nodded silently and took his hand. Her fingers were so tiny in his palm. They walked into the restaurant together, and Vincent felt every eye in the place turn toward them. The hostess practically tripped over herself rushing to greet them. "Mr. Romano, what an honor. Your table is ready. Right this way, please." She led them through the dining room to a corner booth, the best seat in the house, private, comfortable, with a view of the entire restaurant. Vincent always sat where he could see all the exits. Old habits. Isabella slid into the booth and immediately placed her rabbit on the seat beside her. Vincent sat across from her, and for a long moment they just looked at each other. He tried to think of something to say, something a father should say to his daughter. But his mind was blank. "The food here is very good," he finally managed. "You can order anything you want." Isabella nodded but didn't speak. She looked down at the white tablecloth, tracing invisible patterns with her finger. Vincent cleared his throat. "How was school this week?" "Fine," Isabella whispered. "What did you learn?" "Stuff. This was going nowhere." Vincent felt frustration rising in his chest, but he pushed it down. Getting angry wouldn't help. Nothing seemed to help lately. A waitress approached their table, and Vincent looked up, ready to order and get this uncomfortable evening over with as quickly as possible. But something about the woman made him pause. She was maybe 35, with kind eyes and a warm smile that reached all the way to her face. She wore the restaurant's standard black uniform, her hair pulled back neatly, and she carried herself with a quiet dignity that immediately set her apart from the other servers rushing around the busy dining room. "Good evening," she said, her voice gentle and genuine. "My name is Keisha, and I'll be taking care of you tonight." Can I start you folks off with something to drink? Vincent was about to order when Keisha's eyes landed on Isabella's rabbit. Her smile grew even warmer. Well, hello there, Keisha said, addressing the stuffed animal directly. What's your friend's name? Isabella looked up surprised. Adults usually ignored her rabbit or gave it dismissive glances. But this woman was actually interested. Mr. Buttons, Isabella said quietly, so quietly that Vincent almost didn't hear her. Mr. Buttons, that's a wonderful name, Keisha said, crouching down slightly so she was at eye level with Isabella. You know, my daughter had a rabbit just like that when she was your age. His name was Cotton. She took him everywhere. To school, to the park, even to the grocery store. She said he got nervous if she left him home alone. For the first time in months, Vincent saw something flicker across his daughter's face. Interest, maybe even the ghost of a smile. Mr. Buttons gets nervous too, Isabella admitted. He doesn't like being alone. I bet he's very brave though, Keisha said. Having a friend like you, Isabella actually smiled. It was small and brief, but it was real. Vincent felt something crack open in his chest. This stranger had accomplished in 30 seconds what he'd been failing to do for 3 years. Keisha stood back up and pulled out her notepad, but her attention remained warm and focused. So what sounds good to you both tonight? Have you been here before? Vincent ordered wine for himself and asked Isabella what she wanted. Usually she just shrugged and told him to order for her. But tonight she actually looked at the menu Keisha handed her. Can I have the pasta with butter? Isabella asked, looking at Keisha instead of him. You absolutely can, Keisha said. And would you like some bread while you wait? I can bring some fresh from the kitchen with olive oil for dipping. Isabella nodded. Keisha wrote down the order, then turned to Vincent with professional courtesy. But he noticed something in her eyes. She was studying him, trying to figure out who he was and why his daughter seemed so sad. He was used to people being afraid of him or trying to impress him. But this woman just seemed concerned. After Keisha left to put in their order, Vincent tried again. She seems nice. Yeah, Isabella agreed, watching Keisha move through the dining room, checking on other tables with the same genuine attention she'd given them. Your grandmother says you've been doing well in school. Top marks in reading. Isabella nodded but didn't elaborate. The brief spark of life that Keisha had ignited was already fading. Vincent felt it slipping away and didn't know how to hold on to it. The meal continued in painful silence. Keisha returned periodically, and each time she did, Isabella perked up slightly. She asked Isabella about school, about her favorite subjects, about what she liked to do for fun. And somehow, impossibly, Isabella answered, short answers but real ones. Vincent just watched, feeling like an outsider at his own dinner table. Here was this woman, a stranger, connecting with his daughter in ways he couldn't. It should have made him angry. Instead, it just made him sad, and maybe a little hopeful. When dessert came, tiramisu that Isabella had actually requested herself. Keisha lingered for a moment at their table. You know, she said to Isabella, you remind me of some of the kids I work with at the community center downtown. We have art classes on Tuesday and Thursday afternoons. Lots of kids your age. They paint, draw, make things with clay. It's pretty fun. Isabella's eyes lit up with real interest. You work with kids? I do, Keisha said. Well, I work here too, obviously. But in the afternoons, I volunteer at Riverside Community Center. We help kids with homework, do art projects, sometimes just hang out and talk. It's my favorite part of the week. Honestly. Vincent saw something in his daughter's expression that he hadn't seen in 3 years. Hope. Longing. Thomar. Desire to be part of something normal and safe and good. Keisha walked away to help another table. Isabella turned to Vincent with more directness than she'd shown in months. Papa, she said, and his heart nearly stopped because she so rarely called him that anymore. Can I ask you something? Anything, he said, meaning it completely. At school, we have this program. Career Day Mentors. We're supposed to pick someone we admire and learn about their job, shadow them for a day and write a report. Vincent nodded, already thinking through his contacts. A doctor, maybe, or one of his legitimate business associates. Someone respectable and safe. Can she be my guide? Isabella asked, looking toward Keisha. Can I pick her? Vincent froze. His daughter wanted to shadow a waitress. Not a doctor, not a lawyer, not any of the successful people in his carefully constructed world. A waitress from a community center. His first instinct was to say no. It was absurd, inappropriate, below what his daughter should aspire to. But then he looked at Isabella's face. Really looked at it, and he saw something he'd almost forgotten existed. Hope. Vincent stared at his daughter across the table, trying to process what she just asked. In his world, people didn't make requests like this. They asked for money, power, protection, favors that could be measured and controlled. But Isabella wanted something he couldn't understand. She wanted this stranger to be part of her life. You want her to be your mentor? Vincent asked carefully, making sure he understood. The waitress? Isabella nodded, and for the first time in forever, she looked almost excited. Her name is Keisha, Papa. She works with kids. She helps them. I could learn about what she does at the community center, please. Vincent's mind was already racing through all the reasons this was a bad idea. He didn't know this woman. She could be anyone. She could have motives he couldn't see. In his line of work, trust was currency you couldn't afford to spend carelessly. And yet his daughter was looking at him with those eyes. Lucia's eyes asking him for something that clearly mattered to her. Let me think about it, he said finally. The light in Isabella's face dimmed immediately. She nodded and went back to her dessert, retreating into that quiet space where she lived most of the time. Vincent cursed himself silently. He'd done it again. Said the wrong thing. Built another wall between them when he was supposed to be building bridges. When Keisha returned with the check, Vincent made a decision. Excuse me, he said. Could I speak with you privately for a moment? Keisha's expression shifted slightly. He saw the wariness enter her eyes. She'd probably dealt with men like him before. Men who thought their money entitled them to anything they wanted. But she nodded professionally. Of course. Let me just check on my other tables and I'll be right back. Isabella looked confused. Papa, what are you doing? Just talking to her about your idea, sweetheart. Wait here. He stood and walked toward the quiet hallway near the restrooms, away from the dining room's noise. Keisha joined him a moment later, her posture polite but guarded. Is everything all right with your meal? She asked. The meal was fine, Vincent said. He pulled out his wallet, but not for the check. He extracted 5 crisp $100 bills and held them out to her. My daughter wants you to be her mentor for a school project. I'm willing to compensate you for your time. Keisha looked at the money, then at him, and something hardened in her face. I'm not for sale, Mr. Romano. Vincent blinked. She knew his name. Of course she did. Everyone knew his name in this city, even if they pretended not to. I'm not trying to buy you, he said, though even as he said it, he realized that's exactly what he was trying to do. I'm just offering to pay you for your time. My daughter seems to have taken an interest in the work you do. This would be a business arrangement. Keisha crossed her arms. Why does your daughter need to pay someone to care about her? The question hit Vincent like a physical blow. That's not what I'm doing, isn't it? Keisha's voice was gentle but firm. Look, Mr. Romano, I don't know what you do for a living, and honestly, I don't want to know. But I've been working with kids for 10 years, and I can spot a hurting child from across a room. Your daughter is hurting. Vincent's jaw tightened. That's none of your business. You're right. It's not. Keisha's expression softened slightly. But if you want me to be part of her school project, then it becomes my business. And I don't work with kids for money. I do it because they need someone who actually cares about them. So you're saying no? I'm saying I don't want your money. Keisha reached into her apron pocket and pulled out a business card. It was simple, printed on basic cardstock. Riverside Community Center, with an address and phone number. If you're serious about this, have Isabella come to the center next Tuesday at 4. We have an art program for kids her age. She can spend the afternoon with us, see what we do, and decide if it's something she wants to write about for school. Vincent took the card, studying it. Just like that? Just like that. Keisha turned to go, then paused. Mr. Romano? That little girl in there? She doesn't need expensive dinners or fancy clothes or whatever else you think you can give her. She needs someone to see her, really see her. And right now I don't think you know how to do that. She walked away before he could respond, leaving Vincent standing in the hallway with a business card in one hand and $500 in the other, feeling more lost than he'd felt in years. The drive home was quiet. Isabella stared out the window holding Mr. Buttons while Vincent tried to figure out what had just happened. He'd offered money, the solution to every problem in his world, and it had been rejected, refused, as if it meant nothing. When they got home, Isabella headed straight for the stairs. Thank you for dinner, Papa, she said quietly. the same automatic politeness she always showed. "Isabella, wait." Vincent caught up with her at the bottom of the staircase. He held out the business card. "The waitress Keisha, she said you could visit the community center on Tuesday. If you still want to do this mentor thing." Isabella's face transformed. She actually smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. She took the card and hugged it to her chest along with Mr. Button's. "Really? I can go?" "We'll see," Vincent said, already regretting his decision. "I need to check it out first. Make sure it's safe." But Isabella was already happy, already hopeful, and she actually hugged him before running upstairs. It was brief, barely more than a touch, but it was the first time she'd initiated physical contact with him in months. Vincent stood in the empty foyer of his enormous house and realized he was in completely unfamiliar territory. He'd built an empire by being smart, ruthless, and always 3 steps ahead of everyone else. But this woman, this waitress, had outmaneuvered him without even trying, and somehow she'd given his daughter something he couldn't. Over the weekend, Vincent did what he always did when facing an unknown situation. He investigated. He had people look into Keisha Thompson. Within 24 hours, he had a complete file on his desk. Keisha Thompson, age 35. Single mother to a 14-year-old daughter named Destiny. Worked 2 jobs, one as a server at Marcello's, another part-time at a coffee shop. Volunteered 15 hours a week at Riverside Community Center. No criminal record. No debts beyond normal bills. No red flags whatsoever. The file included photos of her apartment, a modest 2-bedroom in a decent but not wealthy neighborhood. Photos of her daughter, a bright-looking teenager who appeared in several honor roll announcements from her school. Records showing Keisha had been volunteering at the community center for 8 years, working primarily with at-risk youth. Vincent studied the file late Sunday night in his home office, trying to understand. This woman worked 70 hours a week between her jobs and volunteering. She wasn't wealthy. She didn't have connections or power. And yet she'd looked him in the eye and told him his money meant nothing to her. He thought about what she'd said. She needs someone to see her. What did that even mean? He saw Isabella every day. He made sure she had everything she needed. The best schools, the best clothes, the best of everything. But even as he thought it, he knew it wasn't true. He provided for Isabella. He protected her. But did he see her? Did he know what she was afraid of? What she dreamed about? What made her happy beyond that one smile she'd given when talking about Mr. Buttons? His mother's words came back to him. Be her papa, not just the man who pays the bills. Monday morning, Vincent called the community center director, a man named Harold Chen who'd been running Riverside for 20 years. Vincent didn't identify himself, just said he was a parent interested in the youth programs. "We run our programs Tuesday through Thursday," Harold explained enthusiastically. "Art therapy, homework help, mentorship programs. We work with about 40 kids regularly, ages 6 to 16. It's all free, funded by donations and grants." "Tell me about your volunteers," Vincent said. "How do you vet them?" "Very carefully. Background checks, references, training. We take child safety seriously." Harold paused. "Are you asking about anyone specific?" "Keisha Thompson." "Oh, Keisha's one of our best." Harold's voice warmed noticeably. "She's been with us for years. The kids love her. She has this way of connecting with the quiet ones, the ones who are struggling. Are you thinking of having your child work with her? Maybe. You'd be lucky to have her. Keisha's got a gift. Some people work with kids because it looks good on a resume. Keisha does it because she genuinely cares. There's a difference." Vincent thanked him and hung up. Everything checked out. The woman was exactly who she appeared to be. Someone who helped people without expecting anything in return. In Vincent's world, such people didn't exist. Everyone wanted something. Everyone had an angle. But maybe that was the problem. Maybe his world was the aberration, not hers. Tuesday afternoon, Vincent told his driver to take them to Riverside Community Center. Isabella had been vibrating with excitement all day, barely able to focus on anything else. She wore her favorite jeans and a purple sweater, and she'd brushed her hair carefully. She wanted to make a good impression. The community center was in an older building downtown. Nothing fancy. The sign out front was faded but clean. Through the windows, Vincent could see colorful artwork on the walls, tables covered with art supplies, and kids laughing together. "Can I go in now?" Isabella asked eagerly. "Not yet." Vincent studied the street, the exits, the people coming and going. Two of his men were parked discreetly down the block just in case. He'd already had the building checked out. He knew every entrance and exit, every potential threat. But no amount of security could protect Isabella from the thing he feared most: disappointment. What if this didn't work out? What if Keisha was just being polite and didn't actually want Isabella around? What if his daughter opened up her heart just to have it broken again? "Papa?" Isabella looked up at him. "Are you nervous?" The question surprised him. "No, why?" "You look like Mr. Buttons does when we go to the vet." All tense, Vincent almost smiled. "Maybe a little nervous?" "Me too," Isabella admitted. "But the good kind of nervous. Like before Christmas." They walked in together, and immediately a middle-aged Asian man approached them with a welcoming smile. Harold Chen, Vincent recognized from the research photos. "Welcome to Riverside. Are you here for the youth programs?" Before Vincent could answer, Keisha appeared from a back room. She wore jeans and a simple green shirt, her hair down around her shoulders. She looked different outside the restaurant. More relaxed, more herself. "Isabella!" Keisha's face lit up with genuine pleasure. "You came. I'm so glad to see you." And just like that, Isabella's nervousness evaporated. She ran to Keisha like she'd known her forever. And Keisha crouched down to greet her properly, asking about Mr. Buttons and whether she was ready to do some painting. Vincent stood by the door, watching his daughter transform into someone he barely recognized. Someone happy, someone free. The first hour at Riverside Community Center was harder for Vincent than any business meeting he'd ever attended. He stood near the entrance, watching through the window as Keisha introduced Isabella to the other children. There were about 15 kids in the art room, all different ages and backgrounds, laughing and working on various projects. Isabella sat at a table with 3 other girls around her age. One was showing her how to mix paint colors. Another was telling her about the mural they were planning for the center's back wall. And Isabella, his quiet, withdrawn daughter, was actually participating, talking, smiling. Harold Chen appeared beside Vincent with 2 cups of coffee. "First time can be tough for parents," he said, handing one to Vincent. "Watching your kid in a new environment. But she's doing great. Natural fit with the group." Vincent accepted the coffee but didn't drink it. "How long have you been running this place?" 20 years. Started with just 5 kids meeting in a church basement. Now we've got this building and serve about 40 regulars." Harold leaned against the wall, comfortable. "We see all kinds. Kids from good homes who just need somewhere to go after school. Kids from tough situations who need a safe space. Kids who are grieving, struggling, trying to find their place in the world." "Which category does Isabella fall into?" Harold studied him thoughtfully. "That's something you'd have to ask Keisha. She's better with the emotional side than I am. I just keep the lights on and the programs running." They stood in silence for a while, watching the kids work. Vincent noticed how Keisha moved through the room, giving attention to each child, asking questions, offering encouragement. She crouched down to help a small boy who was frustrated with his clay sculpture. She high-fived a girl who'd just finished a painting. She listened intently when one of the older kids showed her something on a tablet. "She's good at this," Vincent said. "Best volunteer we've ever had," Harold agreed. "Could have been a therapist or social worker if she'd had the opportunity to go to college. But life had other plans. Now she does this instead, and honestly, I think these kids get more from her than they would from someone with a degree in an office." "Why does she do it?" Harold glanced at him. "Why does anyone do anything? Because she knows what it's like to need help and not have anyone around to give it. Because she believes kids deserve better than what the world sometimes hands them. Because she's a good person and good people try to make things better." The simple answer unsettled Vincent. In his world, people's motivations were always complex, always layered with self-interest and hidden agendas. But maybe Harold was right. Maybe some people just did good things because they believed in doing good things. After 2 hours, Keisha walked Isabella back to the entrance. Isabella's hands were covered in paint, her purple sweater had a clay smudge on it, and she was glowing with happiness. "Papa, look." She held up a canvas with a painting on it. Abstract swirls of blue and gold. "Keisha taught me about color mixing and feelings. This is supposed to be finding light in darkness. That's the theme we're working on this month." Vincent took the painting, studying it. He knew nothing about art, but he could see the effort in it, the care. "It's beautiful, sweetheart. Can I come back on Thursday?" Isabella looked up at Keisha hopefully. "Please?" "Of course you can," Keisha said. We'll be working on the mural planning. We need all the creative minds we can get." After Isabella ran to wash her hands, Keisha turned to Vincent. Her expression was harder to read now. Not hostile, but not exactly warm either. "Can we talk for a minute?" she asked. Privately, they stepped outside onto the center's front steps. The late afternoon sun was starting to set, casting long shadows across the street. Vincent's security was visible now, 2 men in a car parked too conveniently close. Keisha crossed her arms. "I need to be honest with you about something. Go ahead. I know who you are, Mr. Romano. I know what people say you are." She met his eyes steadily. "And I need to know if bringing Isabella here is going to bring trouble to these kids. Because if it is, we can't do this. I won't risk the other children's safety." Vincent had expected this conversation. He respected her for having it. "My business doesn't touch my daughter. I keep those worlds separate, do you?" Keisha's voice was gentle but firm. "Because from where I'm standing, your business is written all over that little girl. She draws pictures, Mr. Romano. During art time, while the other kids paint flowers and superheroes, Isabella draws guards with guns. She draws high walls. She draws a little girl alone in a big empty house. Those aren't things a normal 8-year-old thinks about." The words hit Vincent like punches. She draws those things? Every single session since she started coming here. At first I thought maybe she'd seen something on TV, some movie she shouldn't have watched. But it's too consistent, too detailed, too personal. Keisha's expression softened slightly. "Your daughter is terrified, Mr. Romano, not of you, I don't think, but of your world. And she's so lonely it breaks my heart." Vincent looked away, staring at the traffic passing by. "Her mother died 3 years ago. I know. She told me." Keisha paused. "She also told me she can't have friends over to play. She told me there are always men watching the house. She told me she's not allowed to go anywhere without guards. She's 8 years old and she lives like a prisoner. I'm protecting her. From what? The world? Because you can't do that. You can't wrap her in bubble wrap and armed guards and call it love." Keisha's voice grew more passionate. "That beautiful little girl is drowning. Mr. Romano. She's drowning in fear and isolation, and eventually, she's either going to shut down completely or become so hardened that you won't recognize her anymore. What do you want me to do?" Vincent's voice came out sharper than he intended. "I can't change what I am." "No, but you can change what you choose for her." Keisha leaned against the railing. "Look, I'm not here to judge your life choices. That's between you and your conscience. But Isabella doesn't have a choice in any of this. She didn't choose your world. And right now she's paying the price for decisions she didn't make." Vincent was quiet for a long moment. Everything Keisha was saying echoed thoughts he'd had late at night. Thoughts he'd pushed away because they were too painful to face. "So what do I do? Honestly? I don't know. That's above my pay grade." Keisha smiled sadly. "But I know Isabella needs more than what she's getting. She needs normalcy. She needs friends. She needs to feel safe enough to be a kid. And she needs her father to be present in her life. Not just as a provider or protector, but as a dad who knows what she's afraid of and what makes her happy. I don't know how to do that, then learn." Keisha's voice was kind but unyielding. "Because if you don't, you're going to lose her. Not to death or kidnapping or whatever you're so afraid of. You're going to lose her to the walls she's building around her heart. And those walls get harder to break down every single day." Isabella burst through the door then, her hands clean but still paint-stained, her face bright with excitement. "Papa, can we get ice cream on the way home? Keisha told us about this place called Sweet Dreams that has 30 flavors. And there's one called Birthday Cake that's supposed to be amazing." Vincent looked at his daughter's hopeful face, then at Keisha's knowing expression. "Sure, sweetheart. We can get ice cream." Isabella cheered and hugged Keisha goodbye, promising to be back on Thursday. As Vincent and Isabella walked to the car, Vincent could feel Keisha's eyes on his back. Her words echoed in his head. "You're going to lose her to the walls she's building around her heart." That night after Isabella went to bed, Vincent sat in his home office with a glass of whiskey he didn't drink. He thought about what Keisha had said, about the drawings Isabella made, about the fear and isolation, about losing her. For the first time in his adult life, Vincent Romano felt truly helpless. He'd built an empire through strength and intelligence and ruthlessness. He controlled territories, businesses, people. He had more money than he could spend in 10 lifetimes, but he couldn't fix his own daughter. He couldn't give her what she needed most. Over the next 2 weeks, Isabella went to the community center 3 times a week. Each time she came home happier, more talkative, more like the child she used to be. She told Vincent about the mural they were planning, about the other kids she was making friends with, about the stories Keisha told them during art time, and each time Vincent picked her up, Keisha would give him a look, not judging exactly, more like a teacher watching a student struggle with a difficult problem, waiting to see if they'd figure it out on their own. Vincent started making changes, small ones at first. He reduced the visible security around the house. He let Isabella have video calls with some of the kids from the center. He started coming home earlier, eating dinner with her instead of working through it. But he knew it wasn't enough. Keisha had been right. Isabella was living in a prison and he was the warden. As long as she was part of his world, she would never be truly free. 3 weeks after that first dinner at Marcello's, Vincent made a decision that would have seemed impossible a month earlier. He called a meeting with his most trusted lieutenants and told them he was stepping back. Not completely, not immediately, but gradually. He would delegate the day-to-day operations, focus on the legitimate business interests, and create distance between his daughter and the darker aspects of his empire. They thought he was losing his mind. Some suggested he was showing weakness. A few looked at him with barely concealed ambition, already thinking about power vacuums and opportunities. But Vincent didn't care. For the first time in 20 years, something mattered more to him than power and control. His daughter mattered more. On Thursday afternoon, he picked up Isabella from the center as usual. But this time, instead of just exchanging pleasantries with Keisha, he asked if they could talk. Really talk. They sat on the front steps again while Isabella finished helping clean up the art room. The evening was cool, autumn starting to settle over the city. "I'm making changes," Vincent said without preamble, "in my life, in how I do things." For Isabella, Keisha studied him. What kind of changes? The kind that matter. The kind that will make her life safer, more normal. He paused. "You were right. About everything. I've been so focused on protecting her from threats outside that I didn't see I was the biggest threat to her happiness. That took courage to admit. It took my daughter drawing pictures of prison walls to admit." Vincent looked at his hands. "I don't know how to be what she needs. I never had that example growing up. My father was like me, maybe worse. This life, this world, it's all I know. So learn something new," Keisha said simply. "You're obviously smart, obviously capable. Apply that same intelligence and determination to being a father that you've applied to everything else. Will you help me?" The question surprised them both. Keisha raised her eyebrows. "Help you how?" "Teach me. Show me what Isabella needs, what normal looks like." Vincent felt uncomfortable asking, vulnerable in a way he hadn't been since childhood. "I know I can't pay you." "I know that's not how this works. But I'm asking anyway. Not for me. For her." Keisha was quiet for a long time, watching the traffic pass, thinking. Finally, she sighed. "I'm not a therapist or a parenting expert, Mr. Romano. Vincent. Call me Vincent." "Vincent," she corrected. "I'm just someone who cares about kids and tries to help when I can. But yes, I'll help. Not because you asked, but because Isabella deserves it. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, because helping means I'm going to keep telling you hard truths. It means I'm going to call you out when you're choosing your world over your daughter. It means you don't get to hide behind money or power or intimidation." She looked at him directly. "Can you handle that?" Vincent met her gaze. "I don't know, but I'm going to try." The next 2 months changed everything. Slowly, gradually, like snow melting in early spring, the walls around Isabella began to come down. Vincent started small. He arranged for Isabella to have play dates with 2 girls from the community center, carefully vetted but as normal as possible. The first time one of them came to the house, Vincent made sure all visible security was minimized. No guards at the door, no weapons in sight, just a regular house where regular kids could play. He watched from his office window as Isabella and her new friend Lily ran around the backyard, playing an elaborate game involving Mr. Buttons and Lily's toy dinosaur. Isabella was laughing. Actually laughing. The sound carried through the window and did something strange to Vincent's chest, something warm and painful at the same time. Keisha had told him that's what healing looked like. Small moments of joy gradually replacing the constant anxiety. But change didn't come without complications. 2 weeks after Vincent announced his intention to step back from daily operations, someone decided to test whether he meant it. A rival organization, sensing weakness, made a move on one of his territories. It was a small thing, relatively speaking. A few shipments redirected, some money that didn't make it to the right accounts. A message written in the language of their world. "We see you're distracted." Vincent's lieutenants wanted to respond with force. Show strength. Remind everyone why you didn't challenge Vincent Romano. But Vincent thought about Isabella, about the promise he'd made to himself and to Keisha, about those drawings of guns and walls. Handle it quietly, he told his second-in-command, Paolo. Negotiate. Find a compromise. No violence unless absolutely necessary. Paolo stared at him like he'd grown a second head. Boss, with respect, that makes us look weak. Then we look weak. I have different priorities now. The word spread quickly. Vincent Romano was going soft. His daughter had changed him. He was vulnerable. Keisha noticed the stress immediately the next time he picked up Isabella. She pulled him aside while Isabella showed her art project to Harold. What's wrong? She asked directly. Nothing that concerns you. Vincent. She said his name with that particular tone she'd developed, the one that meant she knew he was deflecting and wasn't going to let him get away with it. You look like you haven't slept in days. Either tell me what's going on or I start assuming it's something that might affect Isabella's safety. Vincent glanced around to make sure no one was listening. Some people think the changes I'm making mean I'm weak. They're testing boundaries, seeing what they can get away with. Is Isabella in danger? No, I'd never let that happen. But it's getting complicated. Keisha studied him. You know what I think? I think you're trying to live in two worlds at once, and eventually you're going to have to choose. I'm trying to give my daughter a normal life while still maintaining enough control to keep her safe. That requires balance. No. It requires you to trust that the world isn't as dangerous as you think it is. Keisha's voice was gentle but firm. You've spent 20 years operating from a place of fear and control. But real safety doesn't come from having the most power or the biggest guns. It comes from building a life that doesn't need those things. Easy for you to say. You don't know my world. You're right. I don't. But I know your daughter. And I know she's getting better, but she's still scared. Because you're still scared. Kids pick up on that. As long as you're living in fear, she will too. Vincent wanted to argue, but he couldn't. Everything Keisha said was true. That night, Vincent did something he'd never done before. He talked to Isabella about his work. Not the details, not the dangerous parts, but the reality of what his life involved. They sat in her room, Isabella in her pajamas holding Mr. Buttons. Vincent sat on the edge of her bed, feeling more nervous than he'd felt in years. Sweetheart, you know Papa's work is complicated, right? Isabella nodded. You're a businessman. Yes, but it's not the kind of business most people have. Some of the things I do, some of the people I work with, they're not always good people. And that's why we have security. That's why there are rules about where you can go and who you can see. Am I in danger? Isabella's voice was small. No, I would never let anything happen to you. But I want you to understand why things are the way they are. And I want you to know I'm trying to change things, to make them better, so you can have a more normal life. Isabella was quiet for a moment. Then she asked, Is that why you've been so stressed? Vincent was surprised. You noticed? You get this line here when you're worried. She touched her own forehead. And you check your phone more. And sometimes when you think I'm not looking, you look really sad. Out of the mouths of children. Vincent had thought he was hiding his stress so well. I'm trying to figure out how to be a better papa to you. How to give you the life you deserve. That's hard work, but it's good work. Isabella reached out and took his hand. Her small fingers wrapped around his. Keisha says sometimes the hardest changes are the most important ones. Keisha's right about a lot of things. Do you like her, Papa? The question caught Vincent off guard. Like her how? I don't know. You talk to her a lot. And you smile more when she's around. Not a big smile, but a little one. Like you do now. Vincent hadn't realized he was smiling. Keisha is a good person. She's helping both of us learn things we need to know. I'm glad she's my mentor, Isabella said. I'm glad I picked her that night at the restaurant. Me too, sweetheart. Me too. As winter approached, Isabella's transformation became more pronounced. She talked more at dinner, telling Vincent about her day in actual detail instead of one-word answers. She made friends at school, not just at the community center. She started sleeping better, the nightmares that had plagued her for 3 years becoming less frequent, and she kept drawing at the center, but her pictures changed. Fewer walls and guards, more sunshine and flowers, more pictures of herself smiling. Keisha showed Vincent the evolution one Thursday afternoon, spreading out drawings from the past 3 months on a table in the center's small office. "This is her first week," Keisha said, pointing to a picture of a small figure surrounded by tall black walls. "This is 2 weeks later." The walls were still there but had flowers growing on them. "This is last month." The figure was larger, more confident, and the walls were in the background instead of surrounding her. "And this is yesterday." The latest picture showed Isabella in a field of flowers holding hands with other children, the sun bright overhead. "No walls in sight." "That's incredible," Vincent said softly. "That's healing," Keisha corrected. "That's what happens when a child starts to feel safe. When they start to believe the world isn't just a dangerous place they have to survive." Vincent studied the progression, seeing his daughter's journey laid out in crayon and paint. "How did you do this?" "I didn't do anything except give her a safe space and let her be herself." "You did this, Vincent, by making changes, by choosing her over your world." "I haven't fully left that world. Not yet, but you're moving in the right direction." Keisha collected the drawings, carefully placing them back in Isabella's folder. "Can I ask you something personal?" "You usually do anyway," she smiled. "Fair point. What made you choose this life in the first place? The business, I mean. The dangerous stuff." Vincent leaned against the desk, thinking about how to answer. "I grew up in it. My father, my uncles, my grandfather. It was family tradition. And I was good at it. By the time I was 25, I'd proven myself. By 30, I was running things. It gave me power, respect, wealth, everything I thought I wanted, and now I realize it also gave me isolation, fear, and a daughter who draws walls around herself." Vincent looked at Keisha. "You know what's strange? For 20 years I thought I was strong, untouchable. But it took a waitress refusing my money to show me how weak I actually was." "You weren't weak. You were just measuring strength by the wrong standards." Keisha's expression was thoughtful. "Real strength isn't about control or power. It's about having the courage to be vulnerable. To admit when you're wrong. To change when change is hard. You should write fortune cookies." Keisha laughed, a warm sound that filled the small office. "I'm serious, though. What you're doing, the changes you're making, that takes more courage than anything you've probably done in your business." "It doesn't feel courageous. It feels terrifying. That's how you know it matters." Their conversations had become easier over the past months, more natural. Vincent found himself looking forward to the Thursday pickups, to the few minutes of talking with Keisha, while Isabella finished her projects. She challenged him, yes, but she also listened. She didn't judge. She just helped him see things differently. His mother noticed the change during Sunday dinner. "You seem lighter," she observed, passing him the pasta. "Less burdened." "I'm trying to be a better father, and how's that going?" "It's the hardest thing I've ever done." His mother smiled, the knowing smile of someone who'd raised 5 children and understood the truth of parenting. "Good. If it was easy, it wouldn't be worth doing." "How's my granddaughter?" "She's good. Really good, actually. She's making friends. She's happy." "And this is because of the woman from the community center? The one Isabella talks about constantly?" "Keisha. Yes, she's helped both of us." His mother studied him with sharp eyes that missed nothing. "You care about her. She's been good for Isabella." "That's not what I asked." Vincent focused on his food. "It's complicated. Life usually is." His mother patted his hand. "Just don't be stupid about it. You've spent 20 years building walls. Maybe it's time to tear some down." But tearing down walls had consequences. 3 weeks before Christmas, those consequences came calling. Vincent was at home helping Isabella decorate the Christmas tree, something he'd never done before. She was showing him how to hang ornaments evenly, explaining that they needed to be balanced but not too symmetrical. He was concentrating on getting a silver bell in just the right spot when Paolo called. "We have a problem," Paolo said without preamble. "That crew that tested us a few months ago? They're making a bigger move. They hit one of our legitimate businesses tonight. The restaurant on Morrison Street." Vincent's hand tightened on the phone. "Anyone hurt?" "No, but they left a message. They want a meeting." They want to discuss new territory arrangements. Tell them I'll meet next week. Boss, they want to meet tonight. And they specifically mentioned the community center. Said they know your daughter goes there. Said they know a lot about your new priorities. Vincent's blood went cold. Are you telling me they're threatening Isabella? They're saying they know where your attention is. Where your weakness is. Paolo paused. We need to respond, Vincent. We need to show strength. This is getting out of hand. Vincent looked at Isabella, who was holding up a homemade ornament she'd created at the community center, proud of her work. She was happy. She was healing. And now his past was reaching for her again. Set up the meeting, Vincent said quietly. But do it away from the center. Away from Isabella. This ends tonight. After hanging up, Vincent had to tell Isabella he needed to go out for a business meeting. Her face fell. But we're not done decorating. I know, sweetheart. I'm sorry. We'll finish tomorrow, I promise. You always have meetings, Isabella said. And there was a hint of the old sadness in her voice. I thought things were different now. They are different. This is just one more thing I have to take care of. One more piece of the old world I have to deal with. Then it's done. But as he drove to the meeting location, Vincent knew it wasn't that simple. It was never that simple. His world didn't let go easily. The meeting took place in a warehouse on the industrial side of town. Vincent arrived with Paolo and 2 other trusted men. The rival crew was already there, 5 of them, led by a man named Dominic Caruso, who'd been trying to expand his territory for years. Romano, Dominic said, leaning against a shipping container with false casualness. Thanks for coming on short notice. Let's skip the pleasantries, Vincent said coldly. You threatened my daughter. That was a mistake. Dominic smiled, showing too many teeth. Did I? I don't recall making any threats. I simply observed that you have new interests. New priorities. A community center where vulnerable children gather, for instance. Vincent felt rage building inside him, the old familiar fury that had served him well for 20 years. But beneath it was something else. Fear. Real fear. Not for himself, but for Isabella and all the other children at that center. What do you want? Vincent asked. Respect. Territory. A larger piece of the operations you've been neglecting. Dominic pushed off the container and walked closer. You've gone soft, Romano. Everyone sees it. You negotiate now instead of eliminate. You back down instead of push forward. You're not the man you used to be. You're right, Vincent said, surprising everyone, including himself. I'm not. I'm better, Dominic laughed. Better? You're weak. And weakness in our world gets you killed. Gets everyone you care about hurt. Then maybe, Vincent said slowly, the realization forming as he spoke. I don't want to be in this world anymore. The silence that followed was profound. Paolo shifted beside him, tense and confused. Dominic's smile faded. What are you saying? I'm saying I'm done. Not done like stepping back. Done like walking away. Vincent felt the words solidify into truth as he said them. You want my territory? Take it. Divide it among yourselves. I'm out. You can't just leave, Dominic said, but he sounded uncertain now, thrown off balance. It doesn't work that way. Watch me. Vincent turned to Paolo. Gather everyone tomorrow. Tell them I'm transferring operations to the council. They can divide responsibilities however they see fit. The legitimate businesses I'm keeping. Everything else they can have. Boss, you can't be serious, Paolo said.